Welcome to this video. Thanks for being a part of this again with me as we get going here. I was just about to take a nap on my lunch break, realizing that I would definitely be sharper if I did that, but that's okay. I would much rather spend a few minutes recording and sharing my thoughts with the channel. So I have been, for a long time, the channel's had my name associated with it, and I might change that. A little bit for privacy's sake, but also because I kind of want to give it a focus that isn't around my name. Not that there isn't a lot to be said for personal brands, but I'm not sure if I'm really trying to create a personal brand or I just liked that name a long time ago, so I stuck with it. But on the career note, for those of us, I'll say us because I hope people watching it are being benefited by my little transition journal entries. You know, it's pretty much what this is, a video log of my life right now. Trying to make it interesting and exciting and realizing so much that I'm just not that entertaining. My life's not that exciting. I'm just a normal guy, just a normal dad, normal husband, trying to make it in this world. So with that in mind, I try to be really honest. And for every one of these little videos I shoot, I always think, wow, I wish I hadn't said that. I wish I had said more of that. I wish I had been more exciting. I wish I didn't have the awkward pause or the or whatnot. At the same time, I realized I got so excited when I posted some 100-odd videos over the course of a year. And then it hit me today that what I'm looking for is something that I'll probably only achieve after maybe 1,000 videos. I got the crazy hair going on today. So after 1,000 videos, I might be as interesting and as informative as I want to be. So with that in mind, no one's watching this. No one's seeing this, at least not very many, and not probably not at the time I release it. But to those of you who may see that, blessings, and I hope everything that I share helps you on your journey, in your career, in your life, and in your family, in your relationships. So I'll just make those goals really broad and not very concrete, but if I help you a bit, then I am happy. So as far as my trade application, my trade apprenticeship, I have, as you may know from previous videos, or you may not, decided to become an electrician, and that is an apprenticeship process that could be union. In my case it is, but there's other electrical apprenticeships that you can do non-union. There's multiple ways to do it, including trade school. I'm a little confused on the trade school thing, still figuring out the terminology. I am applying through a school, but you can get hired with 0 hours. Not quite sure why, but based on stuff I've done and based on the demand, there's people that get hired that's I think called a 0-hour apprentice. So I would be a 0-hour apprentice because I'd have no formal certified electrical hours when I got hired. So that's the hope, to get hired and be working inside an Amazon data center soon, or something like that, learning the nitty-gritty of electrical that I don't know. 99% of it I don't know already. I've bent some pipe, I've pulled some wire through conduit, and I've worked with PVC, and I've done all kinds of irrigation related stuff, which isn't, when it gets around pumps and it involves electricity, I am becoming more and more fascinated. So that is a good merging of things I know about and things that I need to learn about to be an inside wireman. But as I ramble on about apprenticeship, I have just crossed an exciting milestone for me, and that's I've got my application turned in, double checked that it was turned in. You know how those things go. If you've ever worked with a school, trade school or otherwise, or any type of learning program, there's always things that fall through the cracks. And I say that graciously. I'm not blaming anyone else. I'm actually taking ownership for my part, and you can too, that you help remind the administration that you are trying to onboard, and they can help you do that. And it's not about pointing the finger or finding faults when you slip through the cracks. It's about just being kind and professional and saying, hey, am I on this list? And by doing that, you take ownership to make sure that you are not the one holding yourself back. And I guess conversely, maybe you're making sure that no one else is holding you back either, but you're engaging in the process and moving yourself forward by, in my case, double checking for like the sixth time that I am indeed on the list going forward. Of course, I'm always kind and professional on the phone when I ask about my application status or the process status, because we're trying, for one, just have a good vibe with people, to pay it forward in the sense of they talk to hundreds of people like me, some of them not so nice, some of them not so professional, and I want to be the person that brings joy to their day and gets what I want, which is to know if I'm moving forward or not. So pretty simple there. So what happens next in the process, and in my process, which would be similar to some other apprenticeship schooling journeys, it'd be you get scheduled for an aptitude test, and they don't know when. It's roughly a month from now, but that gives me time to get my algebra polished off. In fact, I've been going to bed looking at my algebra textbook from 8th grade. Yeah, good. That'll put you to sleep. I am seriously, like, exercise and algebra at night, probably the best way to fall asleep. Maybe not. At least I can't do a bunch of cardio at night. I've been also exercising at night. I can't do very much though, or I will not sleep. So I have to like make sure my heart rate's down and read a boring textbook, and then I can fall asleep. On the note of trades, I've been a jack of all trades, but not an actual trade. So it's kind of exciting to perhaps redeem that phrase for myself. If you're like me and you've done a little bit of everything, like I said, food service, IT, ag, irrigation, landscaping, project management, software development. I've done a lot of things, which is why when I get into my formal trade, I will not be 23 because I've done all this stuff. Same time, I'll go in with humility because I'll probably be learning from a 25-year-old, a 23-year-old, guys who have been in the trade and already become a journeyman. They streamlined it, more power to them, and hopefully they're making a bunch of money, and they'll help me make a bunch of money to support my family and finally keep up with my bills. Like, finally, that's the hope and dream of the pay associated with a good trade job. Is your skill's supposed to be so valuable that you're going to be compensated well. And like in the bigger economic scheme here in 2025, there's not that many day jobs that keep up with the cost of living in your area. So it's not to say there's not really good jobs, really good careers, but in the blue collar scene, let's say you're able to make six figures in your day job. Chances are your cost of living is also very high. The housing in your area is not cheap, not in 2025, not in most places. Like, if it's out there, tell your friends or don't, whichever, but it's just not, it's not a thing. You get a high wage, you have a high cost of living almost everywhere. And then you have, alongside that, people who do remote work, which, I've been into, I've done a little bit, I've tried to do more. And that gives you this cool, that'd be a really cool, statistical word I could use, like delta or something, but I don't know it, so I can't. But there's a cool thing that you can do when you have a great remote job and live in a rural or low cost of living area. And at first that looks awesome because you are kind of almost exploiting the math. I won't say exploiting the economy, but you're exploiting the math of the economy, and that's awesome. Like, you can bring in good money for your family, keep your costs down, and maybe live in a beautiful remote little spot, or a not so beautiful remote little spot where the cost of living is still low. And I'm watching my area kind of transition from a low cost area to a high cost area, mostly I think because of the Amazon data centers being built in my area. So I can't blame it all on them, and I should actually do some really thorough research. But I do know that the economics of my very small rural area have changed rapidly since Amazon began trying to get in here. I've heard 20 years ago, also a fact I should confirm, or, before I say it. But they've been trying for a while, because it takes a while to get all of the land development and zoning figured out if you're going to put in, say, 100 data centers, which is one of the larger numbers I have heard that they're doing in my area. So we've got towns of 3,000 people. The biggest town in Eastern Oregon, folks, is right around 20,000 people. The biggest town in the whole half of this big western state, 20,000 people. The runners up are like 18, 19,000. There's only a couple of them, and they are gradually shrinking, whereas this town's growing a little bit. But this town and the towns around it are tiny. So when you have something comes in like a bunch of Amazon data centers and uses a bunch of power and buys up a lot of farmland, you have a huge economic shift in a rural ag-centered local economy. It's a big thing, and I need to know more about it so I could share it. I think it's fascinating. I don't remember all of the little details I've heard on that, but I might get into that in the future. Anyway, on a personal note, so I guess I'll put this out as an informal poll. If you have the opportunity to take a nap on a lunch, does that give you energy, or does that mess you up? Me personally, I can usually sleep 10, 20 minutes. Doesn't mess me up at all, makes me sharp. I wake up on my own without an alarm, ready to go. So it's like a really efficient way to use a half-hour lunch break for me. 10 to 20 minute nap, wake up, eat a little bit, use the facilities if I need to, and then I get working, and that's like the best way for me to catch up on lost sleep. But anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments about anything I said. Please do subscribe to my channel. That would be awesome. Do like this video if this content is helpful to you. Have a great day.